Hey everyone, welcome back to Whiskey Blooded. Hope you're having a great weekend. It is Sunday. If you're off work tomorrow for Martin Luther King Day, like I am myself, then I hope you're enjoying your long weekend. Thank you for joining me here today. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for following the channel and thanks for tuning in. Last week at the end of the video, I asked a question and many of you participated below. So thank you for doing that. The question was, what's the furthest you've driven for a bottle of whiskey? So lots of different responses. It was really cool to see you guys interacting, and that's just kind of my way. The only thing I really get out of that is just it's fun to see you guys interact with the channel. So a couple people had mentioned that they flew to Scotland, maybe not for a specific bottle, but that's pretty cool. Going to the home of Scotch, that's got to be awesome. So I'd mentioned I'd also at the very start of this video, and this is what we'll do every week. We'll go through my answer to that question. So once again, last week's question was, what's the furthest you've driven for a bottle of whiskey? So I'd mentioned I had a kind of funny story. It's funny and frustrating. My funny story is I was told by a party store owner, or by a friend, that someone had Weller at their party store, that they'd seen Weller at a party store. And Weller 12 is very hard to find around here. I automatically assumed they meant Weller 12. And so I drove the party store was about 60 miles away, so about an hour and 15 minutes. I drive to the party store thinking that this person would never just tell me anything but if it was Weller 12, not even really thinking that. I get to the party store, I asked the party store owner, I said, hey, I heard you have Weller 12. And he said, yeah, we've got Weller. So he takes me over to the Weller section, or where he's got his bourbon at. And it's everything but Weller 12. It's Weller 107 and it's Weller Special Reserve, and that's it. He didn't even have any other Weller. He didn't have any WL 12, which is what I wanted. So that was frustrating. That was this year, and it's frustrating for me because it's very hard to find around here. I've only ever gotten one bottle. It was basically gifted to me by someone on my birthday that I visit a lot. He was a party store owner, and when he saw it was my birthday, he gave me his last bottle of Weller 12, and that was really cool. So frustrating for me, but at the same time, I learned my lesson. Make sure you clarify before you go driving around for whiskey, because not everyone just assumes that they know what they're looking for, what's rare or not rare. So that was, I thought, pretty fun. At the end of this video, I'll post a new question that you guys can go through and respond, and we can interact with that, so that'll be fun. I think I've already got one in mind here. So once again, this is Whiskey Blooded. My name is Dave. We review whiskey here. I'm sure you guys know that already if you're new to the channel. Our normal format is, once we start getting into the whiskey, we're going to talk about the bottle, we're going to pour it out, look at color, we're going to nose it, taste it, score it out of 100. I have a new chalkboard here. I forgot to buy chalk, but I have a chalkboard, so today I'll just throw a piece of paper over this at the end. But once we get the chalk for next week, that should keep things a lot easier to read with this new setup that we're using here with lights and all kind of stuff. So this is the Double Oak from Jim Beam. It's new. It's just new, as in like 2 months ago. You're seeing it around $25-ish to $30. I think I picked this up for $27. It is a Double Oak bottle. It's a no age statement, 86 proof. The front of their bottle here, it says expertly aged and then matured in a second oak barrel. So it's their attempt at using two different oak barrels, and the point of that is a lot more of the char flavor. I'm not a scientist or a distiller, but I'm guessing once you put the whiskey into that charred barrel, a lot of that char flavor from however they char the barrel really kind of pushes in the very beginning of that aging process. It's going to pull everything it can off of the wall as fast as possible, and then it ages over time. So by using two different barrels, they're going to get that more intense char flavor or oak flavor because it's pulling all that taste in right away. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Let's think about washing the dirt off of your car. So you've got let's say you've got a bunch of mud on your car or a bunch of dirt on your car. When you first blast it, it's going to knock off all the loose hanging stuff, and it's going to get it generally pretty clean. But to really, keep going through it, it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of different motions of the water and turning of the barrel like the whiskey. It's going to take a lot of extra to get that last little bit off. But for the most part, the first hit that you hit it with the hose is going to knock off most of the dirt. And that's kind of what I think of with the barrel. That char flavor is really being pulled in very quickly, and it's interacting with the initial char very fast, and then over time it's just kind of saturating through. So by them using those 2 oak barrels, it gets 2 chances to get that initial blast. So it should be a lot oakier, a lot spicier, I'm guessing, a lot more of that flavor that a lot of people go after. Let's find out. So here we go. We're gonna pour it first. The color on this one, I just had some before I did this review to try to get a good feel for this. So the color on this one is copper, for me. That's what I see at least. It's a copper, maybe a little bit of gold in there. Hope you guys can see that. It's a little bit harder, I mentioned this last week, it's a little bit harder to get this to focus with the new setup I have, but hopefully this gets you a slight idea. Now with a little bit of paper behind it, there you go. That might give you a better idea. The nose. The nose itself is a lot of like maple to me, but I usually get that with Jim Beam products. It's a Jim Beam product. There's no age statement. It's probably their regular, I think I read it's their regular four-year-old aging. I get a lot of maple, I get a lot of burnt sugar, I get some oak, a little bit of cinnamon. Maybe just a hint of leather. And that very much tastes like Jim Beam, with a little bit more going on. I always go after the second one here because it'll help give you a better indication, me a better indication at least. Definitely has some oak to it. Right up front though, it's just like the nose. It's a lot of maple sugar, maple syrup, a lot of burned sugar, a lot of sweet notes, a lot of that high corn taste to me, which very much reminds me of regular Jim Beam. Regular Jim Beam to me has a lot of that mapley taste to it. It's good. It's definitely good there, but very, very, very sweet. After that, when you get, right when it starts kind of going through the middle, you're getting a lot of the oak, So I'm tasting in the middle oak, cinnamon, I'm tasting a little bit of that leather I'd mentioned, and at the very end, so this is where it does lose me a little bit, and I wish it was a little better balanced on this. The end for me, it gets the like leather, oak, and the now like woodier, paperier tastes come through. When I say paper, I mean like cardboard. Like I taste like this like little bit of cardboard, leather, kind of just flat taste at the end, and it starts to lose a little bit of those good flavors that I got up front. So that's not as fun for me on the finish. The initial is very, very sweet. The middle is fantastic, and the finish is a little bit dry, a little bit too cardboardy, if that's the right word. Now I'm going to put some water in this one because there's been a lot of requests for people to do that. We'll probably do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll do about 7 drops here with what we have left. And we will move this around here a little bit. So actually, let's do this. Every time I do a review where I'm adding the water here, in which I'll try to do this every time, let's do the question right now while this interacts. Can't remember how I did it last week, but let's do it right now. This is the perfect time to do it. So the question for next week, while this settles, what should we do? What should we do? I'm going to try to keep it about whiskey. It doesn't necessarily have to be about whiskey. Let's do like a facts kind of question, like a, learn a little bit more about you kind of question. How many distilleries have you visited? And feel free, if you want to list which distilleries, absolutely. But how many different distilleries have you visited? So I think that's an interesting one. I'll go through that next week. No funny stories with that one, but I will let you know my answer next week. So in the comment section below, please let me know, how many distilleries you visited. If you feel like telling us which ones, tell us which ones, even if we've probably never heard of them before. So, now back to the Jim Beam. This is Jim Beam with water. This is the double oak with water. Oh, the nose. I remember this when I tried this, not last night actually, it was Friday night. There's a lot of like cherry that comes through, a lot of darker fruit starts to come through. There's like a cherry, and a little bit of pear that comes in for me. Nah, not pear, like an apple. A little bit of cherry, dark cherry, and like an apple smell to me. And then the taste here. And I remember this from last time too. When I tried it on Friday, I like it more with the water. I don't usually say that, especially when it's at 86 proof. And putting water in it might be putting this around 80 or even lower, even a little bit lower. But the nice part with the water is it keeps the initial and the middle really stayed kind of consistent. You get a little bit of a cherry mix in there. Taste a little bit of apple in the mid and the finish that I was mentioning from the nose. A little bit more like the nicer fruit balance, but it takes away the dryness, the cardboardy taste that I have at the end. So it balances out the end, the finish for me a lot better, and I really, really like it more with the water. So that's interesting. That's not the case for me. So there we go. That's what I think about Jim Beam. Let's score it now. So as I mentioned, I'll have chalk next week. I apologize for this. It looks awful. My wife was nice enough to buy me one of these, so I just wrote it on a card. So here's my score for Jim Beam. Double oak. It is an 81 out of 100. That's a good score. There's a couple things to be said here. It's got a bad, to me, finish right out of the hole, which is not a great thing. Finish is one of the most important of the whole drink. It's better with water. That's good. Price point's great. It's Jim Beam. That's great. No age statement. We always hate that, but we can expect it's about 4 years old. I like this double oaking process. I like the little bit more of oak. The middle on this is great. The mid is very good. The up front is a little too sweet. The middle is great. The finish is a little dry and papery and cardboardy. So that's what I think. It's a great bottle. I probably will buy another for like $25, $26, $27. Why would I not buy potentially another one of these? It's just, I'm going to let this one sit for a little bit. I'm going to, use it for different stuff. I'm going to, come back to it when I just need something cheap to drink. And eventually I'll buy another one. But it's cool that they've expanded the line. It's cool that they're trying something new. That's something we really do like to see nowadays, especially when they're trying something new that isn't like, something that's going to be, like some crazy project, like, people using like the white corn, like we talked about, like, things. This is still staying fairly safe, but also it's them expanding their product line, which we like. So, anyways, thank you for joining me here today. It's been fun. It always is fun with you guys. If you're just tuning into the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button wherever it is. Thanks again for joining me with this new setup. I hope it's still looking good and the videos are coming out well. I'm still learning, so thank you so much for that. I'll see you guys next week.